Göbekli Tepe itself was the end of a process, not the beginning of a process. It was something that marked, it was a marker. It was something that brought together the best of everything that they'd accumulated and created it in one place.
In 2023, a team of researchers fed high-resolution scans of Göbekli Tepe's stone pillars into an artificial intelligence system designed to detect patterns invisible to human eyes. The AI was looking for symbolic language, astronomical alignments, maybe even early mathematical concepts. What it found instead made the lead archaeologist shut down the project for 3 months. The pillars weren't just decorated with animals and abstract symbols. They were covered in a repeating sequence that the AI identified as a warning system, a countdown. And according to the algorithm's analysis, we're in the final cycle. Göbekli Tepe sits on a barren hilltop in southeastern Turkey, and for 12,000 years, nobody knew it was there. It wasn't a city, it wasn't a temple in any traditional sense. It was something older than agriculture, older than writing, older than the wheel. When German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt started excavating in 1995, he uncovered massive T-shaped pillars arranged in circles, each one carved with intricate reliefs of animals, geometric patterns, and humanoid figures with blank faces. The site predates Stonehenge by 6,000 years. It predates the Egyptian pyramids by 7,000 years. And here's what keeps archaeologists awake at night. The people who built this had no written language, no metal tools, and supposedly no concept of organized religion. Yet they moved stones weighing up to 16 tons and carved them with a precision that modern stonemasons struggle to replicate. For decades, researchers assumed the carvings were decorative, maybe totemic representations of animals important to hunter-gatherer tribes. Foxes, serpents, vultures, scorpions. Some pillars showed human hands with 6 fingers. Others displayed geometric shapes that looked random. But in 2019, a researcher named Martin Sweatman from the University of Edinburgh published a controversial paper suggesting that Pillar 43, the so-called vulture stone, wasn't art at all. It was a star map. Sweatman used astronomical software to match the animal symbols to constellations, and when he aligned them to the night sky from 10,950 BCE, they fit perfectly. The animals corresponded to star positions during a specific date, the summer solstice, the same date that a fragmented comet struck Earth, triggering the Younger Dryas impact event, a global cataclysm that wiped out megafauna, collapsed early human civilizations, and plunged the planet into a mini ice age lasting over 1,000 years. That's when things started getting strange. If the vulture stone was documenting a comet strike, what were the other pillars documenting? Göbekli Tepe has 20 circular structures identified so far, but only 5% of the site has been excavated. Each circle contains multiple pillars. Each pillar is covered in symbols. Some researchers estimated there could be over 200 pillars still buried. And if each one is a message, then Göbekli Tepe isn't just a temple, it's an archive, a library carved in stone by people who watch the sky fall. This is where the AI comes in. In 2022, Dr. Elif Koçe, a Turkish computational archaeologist, partnered with a Silicon Valley tech firm specializing in pattern recognition algorithms, the same AI that analyzes satellite imagery for climate patterns, medical scans for tumors, and financial data for market trends. They fed it over 10,000 high-resolution images of Göbekli Tepe's pillars. Every angle, every shadow, every weathered groove. The goal was simple: find patterns that human researchers might have missed, correlations between animal placements, geometric ratios, repeating sequences across different pillars. The AI started spitting out results within 48 hours, and none of it made sense. The first anomaly was structural. The AI noticed that the pillars weren't arranged randomly. Each circular enclosure followed a mathematical progression based on the Fibonacci sequence. The spacing between pillars, the height ratios, even the depth of the carvings, all of it corresponded to a spiral pattern found in nature: nautilus shells, galaxy arms, sunflower seed arrangements. The people who built Göbekli Tepe 12,000 years ago were using advanced geometry, but they had no written numbers, no formal education system, no universities or libraries. So how did they know? The second anomaly was astronomical. The AI cross-referenced the animal symbols with star catalogs spanning 12,000 years, accounting for precession, axial tilt, and orbital drift. It confirmed Sweatman's theory about Pillar 43 being a star map, but it didn't stop there. The AI identified 16 other pillars that also functioned as star maps, each one pointing to a different celestial event: comet impacts, supernova explosions, solar eclipses, meteor showers, all of them clustered around the same 1,000-year window, between 11,000 and 10,000 BCE, the Younger Dryas period, the age of catastrophe. But the third anomaly was the one that made Dr. Koschei shut everything down. The AI detected a repeating symbol sequence across 47 pillars, a pattern so consistent, so deliberate, that the algorithm flagged it as a written language, not pictograms, not proto-writing, a fully developed symbolic code with grammatical structure. The AI even attempted a translation using comparative linguistics, matching symbol clusters to reconstructed Proto-Indo-European roots, Sumerian logograms, and Egyptian hieroglyphs, and it produced a phrase, a single sentence repeated across dozens of pillars in different configurations. The sky serpent returns in cycles. The stone circle marks the count. When the pattern repeats, the fire falls again. Dr. Koschei thought the AI had malfunctioned, so she ran the analysis 3 more times using different datasets, different algorithms, and even a competing AI system from a rival research lab. Every single test came back with the same result. Göbekli Tepe's pillars contained a written warning about cyclical cosmic disasters, and the count mentioned in the translation, the AI mapped it to the geometric ratios between the pillars. Each enclosure represented a time interval. The smallest circles marked decades. The medium circles marked centuries. The largest, still mostly buried, marked millennia. Then the AI did something that no one asked it to do. It calculated the endpoint. Based on the pattern of completed and incomplete circles, the positioning of the pillars, and the astronomical alignments encoded in the carvings, the AI projected when the next cycle would occur, when the sky serpent, presumably another comet or asteroid, would return. The algorithm's answer? Somewhere between 2029 and 2040, less than 2 decades from now. But the AI went further. It identified what it called trigger markers, specific astronomical configurations that precede major impact events. According to the decoded patterns, these markers include a sharp increase in solar flare activity, unusual planetary alignments, particularly involving Jupiter and Saturn, and a clustering of meteor showers from specific radiants in the constellation Taurus. The unsettling part? All 3 of these conditions have been documented with increasing frequency since 2019. Solar cycle 25, which began in 2019, has been significantly more active than predicted, with multiple X-class flares recorded in 2023 and 2024. Jupiter and Saturn reached a great conjunction in December 2020, the closest alignment in 400 years. And the Taurid meteor stream, which Earth passes through twice annually, has been producing unusually bright fireballs, with several large meteorite impacts recorded in recent years, including the Chelyabinsk meteor in 2013 that exploded over Russia with the force of 30 Hiroshima bombs. Some researchers argue these are just coincidences, normal variations in solar and orbital cycles that happen all the time. But the AI's pattern recognition flagged them as statistically significant deviations from baseline activity, matching the encoded warning signs with 87% confidence. That's higher than most medical diagnostic algorithms, higher than facial recognition systems. The AI was more certain about the correlation between current astronomical activity and Göbekli Tepe's warning markers than it is about identifying faces in a crowd. Now here's where things get even stranger. Dr. Koschei's findings were never published. The Turkish government classified the research under national security protocols. The tech firm that provided the AI signed a non-disclosure agreement, and Dr. Koschei herself gave only one interview to an obscure archaeology podcast before going silent. In that interview, she said something chilling. She said the AI didn't just decode a warning, it decoded a blueprint. The pillars at Göbekli Tepe weren't just marking time, they were instructions, a survival guide carved in stone by a civilization that saw the end of the world and wanted to make sure someone, anyone, would be ready for the next one. So what were those instructions? According to the fragments that leaked online, and yes, portions of the research did leak, the pillars describe three things. First, the signs to watch for: changes in solar activity, increased meteor showers, unusual auroras visible at lower latitudes, all of which we've been seeing with increasing frequency over the past decade. Second, the safe zones, geographic locations that survived the last impact, relatively intact, marked by specific animal symbols. Mountainous regions in Turkey, the Zagros Mountains in Iran, the Altai Mountains in Siberia, the Ethiopian highlands, and the Andes in South America. Interestingly, all of these regions have megalithic sites or ancient ruins that predate known civilizations. Third, and this is the most disturbing part, the pillars describe what happens during the impact itself, not just the immediate destruction, but the long-term effects, the years of darkness, the collapse of the food chain, the desperate migrations, and the mutation of survivors. Wait, mutation? This is where the leaked research gets truly bizarre. The AI identified a series of symbols on Pillar 18 that it translated as the changed ones, or those who breathe the dust. The carvings showed humanoid figures with elongated skulls, oversized eyes, and six-fingered hands. The same six-fingered hands that appear on several other pillars. Dr. Koche's notes, again, allegedly leaked, suggested that these figures might represent genetic mutations caused by prolonged exposure to cosmic radiation or atmospheric ash. Survivors of the last cataclysm who adapted to the new environment. And if the pattern repeats, the AI's projection implied that the same mutations could occur again. But let's take a step back. Is any of this actually credible? Or is it just another case of AI hallucination, the phenomenon where machine learning systems generate plausible-sounding nonsense because they're pattern matching without true understanding? Skeptics have pointed out several problems with Dr. Koche's research. First, the AI was trained on datasets that included mythological texts, ancient astronaut theories, and speculative archaeology papers. If you feed an AI a bunch of conspiracy theories, it's going to spit out conspiracy theories. Second, the translation method was questionable. You can't just map ancient symbols to modern languages and expect coherent results. That's not how linguistics works. Third, even if Göbekli Tepe does encode astronomical knowledge, that doesn't mean it's predicting future events. Ancient people observed the sky because it mattered for agriculture, navigation, and ritual. Seeing patterns doesn't mean they were prophets. But here's the counter-argument. Göbekli Tepe isn't the only site with these characteristics. In 2021, researchers analyzing Karahan Tepe, another megalithic site just 35 kilometers from Göbekli Tepe, found similar pillar arrangements with nearly identical animal carvings, the same vulture symbols, the same geometric ratios. Even the burial method matched, with the site deliberately sealed under rubble sometime around 8000 BCE. In 2022, excavations at Göbekli Tepe, another nearby site, revealed stone circles with geometric patterns matching those at Göbekli Tepe. But here's what made researchers pause. The pillars at Göbekli Tepe were arranged in a different sequence. The animal symbols appeared in a different order, as if each site was a chapter in a larger book, and you needed to read all of them together to understand the complete message. In 2023, ground-penetrating radar surveys identified at least 11 more unexcavated sites across the region, all following the same architectural template: circular enclosures, T-shaped pillars, deliberate burial. But the Turkish government immediately restricted access to these sites. Military checkpoints went up overnight. Satellite imagery from commercial providers started getting blurred for the region, the same technique used to obscure sensitive military installations. When journalists asked why, the official answer was protection of archaeological heritage. The unofficial answer, according to leaked emails from the Ministry of Culture, was that preliminary surveys suggested these new sites contained information of strategic national importance. What kind of information could 12,000-year-old stone carvings possibly contain that would warrant military secrecy? According to one theory circulating among researchers who've been quietly removed from the project, the AI's analysis revealed something beyond just astronomical warnings. It decoded what some are calling an impact prediction algorithm. Not just a warning that impacts happen cyclically, but a mathematical formula for calculating when and where they'll strike based on patterns in solar activity, planetary alignments, and comet trajectories. If that's true, if ancient hunter-gatherers somehow understood celestial mechanics well enough to predict cosmic disasters thousands of years in advance, then everything we think we know about the development of human knowledge is wrong. This isn't one isolated monument. It's a network, a coordinated system built by people who clearly knew what they were doing and wanted to preserve specific information across multiple locations in case one site was destroyed. Think about the redundancy. If you wanted to send a message to the distant future, you wouldn't carve it once. You'd carve it a dozen times in different locations, using different encoding methods, so that even if most of the copies were lost or damaged, at least one would survive long enough to be found and decoded. That's exactly what we're seeing across southeastern Turkey, a deliberate, coordinated effort to ensure that crucial knowledge survived the millennia. And the timing matters. These sites were all built immediately after the Younger Dryas impact, right after the cataclysm that collapsed early civilizations and killed off 60% of large mammal species in North America alone. The survivors didn't just rebuild. They created something designed to last through the next disaster. They buried it intentionally, sealing the stone circles under tons of earth and rubble, not to hide it, but to preserve it. Klaus Schmidt himself noted that the burial at Göbekli Tepe appeared deliberate, not the result of natural erosion or collapse. Someone wanted these pillars to survive until the right moment, until someone had the tools to decode them. So let's talk about the tools. Why did it take AI to crack this? Why couldn't archaeologists figure it out in the 3 decades since Göbekli Tepe was discovered? The answer is scale and complexity. Human researchers can analyze individual pillars, note the symbols, compare them to other sites, but tracking correlations across hundreds of carvings, mapping them to astronomical events separated by millennia, calculating geometric ratios across multiple structures, that's beyond human cognitive capacity. We're too slow, too biased by existing theories. The AI had no preconceptions. It just looked at the data and found the patterns. But here's the terrifying part. If the AI is right, if Göbekli Tepe really is a countdown to the next impact event, then we're running out of time to decode the rest. Remember, only 5% of the site has been excavated. The Turkish government halted large-scale digs in 2018, citing concerns about structural damage and the need to develop better preservation techniques before proceeding. But some researchers suspect the real reason is that they found something they're not ready to make public. There are rumors, completely unverified, that one of the deeper excavations uncovered a sealed chamber beneath the central pillars, a chamber that wasn't empty. What was inside? No one's talking officially, but a construction worker who claimed to have been on site during the discovery described it in a now deleted social media post as a room filled with stones covered in writing we couldn't read, and a stone box we weren't allowed to open. The post was deleted within hours. The worker's account was deactivated, and the excavation team was replaced with a military detail that still guards the site's restricted zones to this day. Let's assume for a moment that the AI's translation is accurate, that Göbekli Tepe really is warning us about a cyclical cosmic threat. What do we do with that information? The scientific community is divided. Some researchers argue that even if there's a kernel of truth to the cyclical impact theory, we already have asteroid detection systems, space agencies monitoring near-Earth objects, and contingency plans for planetary defense. NASA's DART mission proved we can redirect asteroids if we spot them early enough. We're not the same vulnerable species that got blindsided 12,000 years ago. But other researchers aren't so confident. The Younger Dryas impact, if it happened the way Sweatman and others suggest, wasn't a single asteroid. It was a fragmented comet, multiple impacts across the northern hemisphere over several days. Our current detection systems are optimized for large, solid objects on predictable orbits. A fragmenting comet approaching from the outer solar system could evade detection until it's too late to do anything meaningful. And if the AI's timeline is correct, if we're looking at an event window between 2029 and 2040, that doesn't leave much time to prepare. So what would preparation even look like? According to the alleged instructions from Göbekli Tepe, survival depends on 3 factors: location, resources, and knowledge. The safe zones are high-altitude regions with natural protection from blast waves and tsunamis. The resources needed are food that can be stored long-term, seeds for post-impact agriculture, and clean water sources. The knowledge is the tricky part. The pillars apparently describe techniques for preserving fire, purifying water, and protecting against the dust, which modern researchers interpret as volcanic ash or impact debris that would block sunlight for years, triggering crop failures and mass starvation. The changed ones mentioned in the carvings might not be mutations at all. They might be describing how to survive in an altered atmosphere, breathing techniques, dietary adaptations, ways to endure conditions that would kill most people. But here's the question nobody wants to ask. If the people who built Göbekli Tepe had all this knowledge, if they survived the last cataclysm and knew exactly how to prepare for the next one, then where did they go? Why didn't their civilization survive? Why aren't there continuous records, cities, empires, descending from these advanced builders? The answer might be simpler and more horrifying than we think. They did survive, for a while, long enough to build Göbekli Tepe and its sister sites, long enough to carve their warnings and bury their knowledge, but not long enough to rebuild civilization as it was. The world after the Younger Dryas was too damaged, too hostile, resources were scarce, populations were scattered. The survivors became the ancestors of later cultures, passing down fragmented memories through myths and legends, stories about great floods, fire from the sky, gods who walked the earth before the catastrophe. Every ancient culture has these stories, and maybe they're not myths at all. There's a reason Göbekli Tepe was buried, not destroyed, buried, carefully, deliberately, with the pillars still standing, the carvings intact. Someone wanted it found, but only when humanity had the technology to understand it, only when we could decode the warning and actually do something about it. And now we have that technology. The AI has cracked the code. The countdown is visible. The question is whether we'll listen. Dr. Koshai's last known statement from that obscure podcast interview was this: Göbekli Tepe isn't asking us to be afraid. It's asking us to remember. The people who built this survived the impossible. They watched their world end, and they rebuilt. They left us a message that says, this happened before, it will happen again, but you can survive if you prepare. Whether we choose to hear that message is up to us. The Turkish government still hasn't released the full AI analysis. The pillars are still being excavated at a glacial pace, and every year, astronomers detect more near-Earth objects, more comets, more fragments of rock hurtling through space on trajectories we can't fully predict. Maybe the AI was wrong. Maybe Göbekli Tepe is just an ancient temple with impressive astronomical knowledge, but no prophetic significance. Or maybe 12,000 years ago, a group of survivors looked up at a shattered sky, carved their warning into stone, and prayed that someday someone would be smart enough to read it. We just found out we're that someone. Now the real question is, what do we do with what we know? The pillars are still standing. The message is still there. And somewhere beneath the earth of southeastern Turkey, in chambers we haven't yet opened, there might be more answers waiting. Or maybe just more warnings. Either way, the countdown is running. And according to the AI, we're closer to the end than we think. If you want to understand what happens when advanced civilizations forget their past and ignore the warnings left behind, there's another story buried in stone that might give you the answer. That video's on your screen right now.